officially at Target. These are the high protein finds you can find at this store if your goal is weight loss and to get yourself to where you want to be in your own fitness journey. The option I'm looking for isn't here, obviously. However, if you're looking for a solid go to a clean find that's fairly high in protein, all these options you see here are going to be somewhat fairly ideal. The one that I'd most likely recommend going to is going to be this one right here. It's got the highest that there is on the shelf, but the one that I'm looking for is generally PB, and it's got around a higher stack in the protein count. So the whole point behind why you want options that are more clear satiated in protein is obviously one, it's going to keep you fuller for longer, and two, it's going to reduce the amount of times you spend snacking, whether it's in the kitchen or whether you're trying to find clean cuts on the go without having to make your weight loss journey a lot more complicated than it actually needs to be. It's also important to not just pick up anything you see on the shelf just because it's got the macros you're looking for. It's about finding the best option that's going to guide you to meet your macro count on a consistent and regular basis. That's the main thing that I go to whenever I'm at a store looking for the right things that I can find. At the end of the day, it doesn't need to be about you. It needs to be about, is what I'm going to get me to my macro count in a given day? If the answer is yes, then go ahead. If the answer is no, then look back into what you're getting. Is this going to be the best find? Just because it's got dark chocolate in it and you love dark chocolate, is it going to get you closer to your goal? If not, then it may not be the best option with only 5 grams of protein, 14 grams of fat, and 8 grams of carbs. The whole point of this is to find the right options, and not just anything that's going to give your body what it needs to function the right way accordingly to get you to lose weight, to get you into a deficit, help you tone up those side handles that you have that you are trying to lose, and put you into the best position you can to actually lose weight. And if you're not losing weight, looking at a few things about what you're doing in a general grocery store, what you're picking up, asking yourself reflective questions. Is what I'm getting the right thing? Is it going to get me to the position that I want to be in my weight loss journey? Or am I just trying to satisfy myself with all the cravings and food interests that I generally love to indulge in? How about what not to get? I'm all for options, especially if every now and then you kind of want to just test the waters and go for options like this right here. The macros aren't really favorable, especially if you're looking to build actual muscle, not really build any fat on that. Options like that aren't going to be relatively macro friendly. Options like that, like the ones you see next to it, are more than likely going to have a higher count in protein, which definitely is something you'd want to look into, especially if your goal is you love waffles, you love pancakes, and things like these are things you have a crazy food interest in. I'm trying to find the macros at where this thing is in the back. 8 grams of protein is relatively low, 32 grams of protein and 2.5 grams of fat. 180 calories isn't really ideal. Again, you want to find a better option that's going to guide you towards feeling fuller for longer. That is not going to be it. I was thinking so first time looking at it. Now that I have looked at it, I personally think it's not going to be relatively ideal if you want to limit cravings and get to a deficit and see physical change in the way that you look. I would run away from that at all costs. Again, there are plenty of options you can actually find that you can go to. It just depends on, again, I like to look at the macros. If it's got a substantial amount of, again, proteins and carbs in it versus fat, then it's going to be something that I'm going to look into more in my diet, in my day-to-day. And it doesn't really relatively matter what you go for. Options just like these you see here right behind me, chicken dumplings. Let's check that one out. Per container, 420, 7 grams of protein, 6 grams of fat, and, well, 19 grams of carbs. I mean, relatively low macros. Now, let's look at one that definitely has more, like lasagna. Lasagna tends to have a higher count in carbs. Protein, possibly, depending if the one that you do get has a protein count in it. 290 calories, 17 grams of protein, 29 grams of carbs, and 12 grams of fat. Overall, the content is relatively higher. It's definitely a meal you want to ration with and use a serving size. It's not something you want to destroy the entire package and or container on, since lasagna typically has a lot more carbs than any other carb you would have for dinner. Generally, you'd want to, again, limit the amount of servings you have in one sitting. So maybe you would substitute half of that with another carb, like maybe sweet potato, which I think is the best carb out there for dinner because it keeps you full for longer. It has a more macronutrient count towards carbs, meaning you're going to feel fuller for longer. You're not going to want to raid the kitchen pantry after a dinner shift or after you eat dinner, which is something you want to avoid. And generally, since I'm at Target and it's a store that I really don't do much videos on, you want to find options that are going to be the most helpful to you, not going to cripple you from actually seeing change or dropping 20 pounds on the scale. You want to find ways, you want to take foods that are going to get you to where you want to be without giving you headache, without causing confusion, while mitigating as much headache as humanly possible. Which is exactly why options like these are things that I would generally go to in a given day without thoughts. That's going to get me to where I am in my own fitness journey. At the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily have to be about you. It just needs to fit the macro budget around what you go into intake. All of which I think are relatively extremely helpful if the goal is weight loss and making it concise. Out of all the options that I just relayed to you, I'm looking more towards the chicken marinara. And the macros on this are generally 19 protein, 10 grams of carbs, and 10 grams of fat, 210 calories. This is going to be the best find if you ask me. Again, it's lower in calories. You can most likely have 2 of these things, and it's going to keep you full for longer. So it's going to limit the amount of times you are going to eat in the kitchen, because if your goal is weight loss, you want to find ways you can go about the process where you're not overthinking anything. A lot of guys overthink the process, and in doing so, they have no viable solution to keep fat off, keep it off in a way where they're not going to, again, gain the weight back off in a given week. So out of the options that I listed there, I'm looking at leaning more into that compared to the options that you see more towards my right. If something is lower in calories generally and it's higher in protein, it's more than likely going to be an option you can pick, you can eat more of while getting you closer to your goal. That's something you want to keep in mind, especially when you're browsing with all the variety and all the selections that they have out here in stores just like this. You can also supplement your way to a deficit, even if need be. Even if you're in a grocery store just like this one, you're going to see many options here on the go you can look at, which I think is the best option regardless. However, I'm going to look for what I can get most out of my money, right, out of my own budget. So I'm going to look at this and not the actual liquid beverage that is ready to make on the go. You can definitely get it. However, the serving size of it is going to be a lot less. So you could get this, which I recommend, or you could go and get something just like this, which I think is the best bet. I mix it generally with almond milk or non-sweetened almond milk. I'm not really too fond of the whole general milk because for me it causes like stomach issues and etc. and so much stuff. So I'm going to find what's most relatively in alignment to what's going to get me the best result possible. So there are so many options here you can look at. Any one of these is going to work, but if you're looking for what you can get most out of your finances, it's going to be the actual supplement you're going to mix in with some milk. It could be fruits, oats, whatever it is of your general liking. I think it's the best option out there, and it's going to get you more for what you can get. So throughout the course of your week or month, when you look at it that way, you're going to be able to get more out of it. And on the package, it says 2 scoops, which is obviously for the serving. So there's 12 servings in total. So that means you're going to be able to make more than if you were to get the one for $10, which you may have to come back to the store and buy and stock up more on it, which if you're looking at the time constraints in terms of how much you're going to spend over a period of time, it's definitely going to cost you more, which is something that I look into whenever I'm, again, going shopping. I don't like to look at what options are going to be the best just to look at what options are going to be the best, but it's more about how much can I get for the budget to get max out what I'm going to get on spending power. Those are things that I look at whenever I'm shopping or supplementing my way to be my macros. Again, don't have to overthink the process, because anybody who overthinks something in fitness, that's to the point where things become more complex. And when you overthink something to the point it becomes more complicated, you don't really digest or take enough action necessary to reach the weight loss goals you set out for yourself, and that creates a lot of complication, it creates a lot of friction, and it's something you want less of in your life. Follow and subscribe to this page below if you're looking for high quality options you can find while at Target.